next session, we have a panel that is preparing to come up to stage. We have been talking a lot about education and our awareness that education as a system is broken. So if education is broken, what next? Coming to the stage, please welcome Dr. Tunde, Nazli Ersen, and our moderator, Mark P. We're excited to hear what they have to say about the needs of our learners and all the changes that are happening. All right, panel, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. Everybody rested from last evening's activities? No, I didn't think so. All right. Well, let's lighten it up a little bit. My name is Mark Plitzuweit. I am the president and CEO of Edkey, Inc. We are a family of charter schools. We have 28 individual and unique programs and schools. Each one of them has their own unique mission and vision, which is a different process than most other charter operators that are out there. If you understand what charter schools are, they're different in every state. In the state of Arizona, we do have contracts directly with the state, so that we don't have to work with the public school districts to get that charter. We have schools for the deaf and hard of hearing. We have schools for emotionally disabled students. I have a school that caters to survivors of sex trafficking. We have high-end basketball programs. We have high-end football programs. So anybody familiar with like IMG, the IMG programs? Yeah, local. They're here. They're right here. We have programs similar to theirs as well. So STEM focus. But I am super excited to be here, and I will moderate. I'll be asking some questions. We'll be talking through the whole broken education system and, what are we going to do about it now? So why don't we go ahead and do the other introductions?
Sure. Thank you so much, Mark. So my name is Nazli. Most people call me Naz. I'm here today. I'm actually in this world to help people to really live the life that they have imagined, really inspire them to become who they are, not who they should be. And so Brooke said something that it just really resonated a lot, that she said we are light. So it's really bringing that light, from your inner core is just what I do. And I have developed a model that uses astrological insights along with 15 years of experience from a corporate world, with the coaching techniques that helps individuals, organizations, and especially youth to step into an adventure of profound professional and personal transformation. I also actually developed academy, because we're going to be talking about education, that called Reve, means the dreams in English. And that's really focusing on the youth and education and enhancing and straightening their sense of purpose beyond their financial, expectation. And when they ask me, what is your dream, Nazli, because, it's an ultimate dream laboratory that they're building. The unique part about this academy is that I'm not building anything that I think that they need, because education is broken, and I want them to actually figure out what they want in their life, how they are going to be designing their life with purpose, and just making sure that their life, it's not so separated from their career or the education. And when they ask me, what my dream is that, well, my dream is for you to actually follow your dreams. So that's what I do.
Outstanding.
All right. My name is Akintunde Ajagbe.
So I had my bachelor's degree and master's in business admission degree, both in Nigeria, and a PhD in technology management from one of Malaysia's top 5 universities. So after my PhD in 2014, I returned back to Nigeria and I was appointed as an assistant professor of business management at Covenant University, Nigeria. So in 2016, I was headhunted at another university, Ritman University, Nigeria, as a senior lecturer in business administration. At that university, I served as a department chair of business and also the director for research and innovation. So at adjunct level, I have served with Durban University of South Africa, Durban, where I supervise 5 master's degree students online. So I also served at ICT University, Cameroon, owned by ICT University Foundations, USA, where I taught strategic leadership for doctoral students online, and I supervised their doctoral degree students. So also, I was a tutor at Gambia Technical Training Institute, Republic of Gambia. The institute is under the University of the Gambia. So I also served with Poma International Business University, Republic of Benin, where I supervise their doctoral degree students. So currently, I'm a professor of management and entrepreneurship at Rudolph Kwanwe University, which is in Republic of Liberia. So throughout my journey as a scholar, I have engaged in academic conversations in about 10 countries. I have published extensively. I have published over 100 articles in journals, conferences, book chapters, and I have written a textbook. So the title of my textbook is Funding Criteria for Technology-Based Firms in Malaysia. So my articles, my over 100 articles have been cited about 2,450 times on Google Scholar by authors globally. So I am currently the president of Maryland Publishing and Research Institute. My scholarly publications has earned me an NIW green card from the United States government, which is an award for outstanding scholars. So throughout my journey as a research scholar, I use my incorporated company, although I've been doing this service before incorporating this company. I use it to mentor students in research and publications because I found a huge gap that many researchers, many students find it difficult to publish their works in journals. Like all of us here are scientists, we are researchers, we are inventors. When inventors say they do research, what are they researching? They are researching into already published works. So inventions are coming out from published works. So everything we are discussing here should go into journals. We should ensure that we publish, put out the publications, everything we are discussing, we put it out there. Those are the stuff that is going to help inventors and innovators to publish. Even journalists, TV hosts and everything, they go on the internet and do research. What are they researching? They are researching into those stuff that we have put out there already. So that's what I'm going to say for now. Thank you.
So we don't have a script. How about that? We're just gonna have a conversation. We actually just met. We just met today. So we met on Friday. But how many of you really believe that education is broken? How many of you believe that it is broken, or it was broken prior to COVID? Private. Exactly, and that's where we're going. We're going to talk about, because what looks broken to me, what looks broken to our other panelists, completely different. It can be completely different. And I got into education because the education system was broken for me, and I'm not going to say how old I am, but it was broken back then. And the straight rows, rote memory, regurgitating information wasn't my style of education. But there were also other things newer things, and we're going to get into online education. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. But we're also going to talk about how are we preparing our students for the future? What does that look like? And so let's start here and say, now, one of the points that you sent to me earlier was just that we don't have our students just aren't prepared for the real world once they get out of school, whatever steps those are. So how are we taking a look at how to prepare these students for a real world? What does that look like? What's that golden nugget for us?
Thank you for asking and reminding me my point that I sent you. So for the past 3 years, I actually have given a lot of workshops and keynotes, and I traveled around the world, going to universities, and I did this for free. Even the students that ask me, they're just, can I ask you a question? And say, do you earn money? Just like to your point. I said, no, I don't. Do you want to earn money? And they're like, yeah. So they're just more focusing on the financial expectation and how their career or the major that they have picked is going to impact their life. So what I realized that they're not really designing their life the way that it's going to make them happy. They're more driven by, what is social media is saying, or what is, a LinkedIn titles is really means to them, or they are just really, studying the major that they have been told that it's gonna make them successful and makes a lot of money. I have people that, Brooke was just telling a lot of, inspiring story. I can tell you a lot of, inspiring story when, students are studying engineering, where they want to be a DJ, or they just want to be a fisherman, or they just want to live their life with purpose and still earn money. So I think the real world, that they are going to be stepping into in the education at the universities, or even earlier in the 3rd grade, 4th grade, we're programming them, and we're just really setting their to-do list for them. And, it's kind of changing, it's changing for Generation Z. It's changing Alpha. I think my son is 10 years old, I think it's the Alpha generation. So he comes and he says, I'm the boss of myself. I don't know what to tell him, because I went to a school where I was programmed to be successful, but I was a failure. I actually tried to, satisfy myself or society's expectation and family expectation and siblings, and just to fit into that very uncomfortable container, and where I just, thought that I was breathing. So when I actually, work with students and prepare them for the real world, I ask them who you are. And the first thing they said, oh, I study engineering, or I study finance. And then the second time I asked, so what do you, can you just tell me about yourself? And they're like, oh, I actually just, I'm an intern at this company. No. And then, or they say, oh, you know what, I have my elevator pitch. 30 seconds. I'm like, no. So, yeah, they're not prepared. They are really, really in the competition. And we were just talking about it, how we just shouldn't really compete. We should really bring our expertise together. But we are here in this room that many years passed, and we actually just more self-aware, but they are not. So yes, education system, the teachers and the parents and mentors and coaches, we're so many of them in the world that, everybody is a coach, everybody is a mentor. Everybody, could be a doctor. But what is important to building the trust with the students, and making sure that they can actually talk to you. I know you asked me a very simple question, and I've been talking. I can't talk for many hours. But I think I'm going to go back to, your question, try to remember, you asked me, a one kind of secret sauce is just the listening to them. It's so important. I've been developing myself with my son, listening to him. And the same thing, you know, with the students. When you listen to them, you make them to listen themselves. And that's where the lights comes up. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting because I'm going to go back to a point that you made about the social media, digital world that we're in, and I'm going to toss this softball over to you. So I know one of your focuses is on online education and some of the pitfalls that are involved in online education. I operate one of the largest online charter schools in the state of Arizona, and I see it firsthand. I see the positives and I see the negatives. And so from your standpoint, with the students that you work with and the experiences that you've had with your research, talk a little bit about what those pitfalls are, because not all of us are influencers. I mean, isn't that the latest, greatest thing, is being an influencer out there on the internet and think that you're more important than you really are sometimes? And our students see that. No matter what grade they are, they see that. So talk a little bit more about the online learning world and just kind of how those pitfalls are not preparing our students for the real world.
All right. So in talking about the broken nature of the education system, I want to look at, there are so many factors, like the security issues in schools, outdated curriculum, non-alignment of educational needs to the current modern world, technology issues in education and its emerging challenges. So I want to focus on the technology challenges in education. Even though I've benefited a lot, and I'm currently benefiting in the use of technology in teaching, they still come with its downsides. So in recent times, we have noticed a kind of democratization and normalization of academic cheating and dishonesty. And to our young students in this generation, it's becoming the new normal. They don't seem to have been doing something abnormal. Like, some examples I would like to put out there before I move further, like, how are we going to explain the proliferation of assignment helpers all over the internet? When we were growing up, these things were unethical. But now you see people on the internet advertising that they could help you complete your assignments, and it's becoming very popular. And also, the other day I saw a guy advertising that he could help PhD students complete their dissertations within 6 months. And we all know that PhD study ranges from 3 years to 4 years, depending on which country curriculum you are adopting. And also, a postgraduate student used an AI software to write a statement of purpose and submitted an application for a postgraduate study. The university detected, and they said he used an AI, and the university will not condone such going forward. So that is a downside. Even we have been talking glowingly about AI. This is one of the downsides of AI. So the challenges before educational policymakers and implementers is we have to put our eyes on these challenges, all these downsides in making our policies and see how we are going to work so that this will not negatively impact our students. Because one of the challenges of technology in education is that it hampers or hinders cognitive development. Cognitive development is the use of the brain in effective learning and acquisition of knowledge. What I can say about technology in learning is that we are getting to a stage where we are allowing technology to think for us. Our brain is not going to work effectively anymore, and I'm scared of what's going to happen in the future. It's like there will not be use having this brain anymore. Like one of the doctors on the panel stage was saying yesterday that AI is good in writing papers, But the only thing they encourage is that AI should be used for the starting and not the finishing. And I was having a conversation with one of the panelists yesterday at the dinner. I told him I disagreed with what the doctor said, that if you use AI to start your research, that starting is the foundation of what you want to build on. That means you want to build on zero. Because if you write a literature review with an AI, you are going to collect your data, you are going to analyze your data, you're supposed to discuss your data, and in discussing your data, you are putting sense into that data. It is that foundation you want to put into that data to come up with your conclusion. So the literature review is talking about what other authors have discussed. Then you want to look at your data and tell us whether you found contrary opinion or similar opinion to what other authors have discussed. So if you don't use your cognitive learning skills to develop that literature review, how will you understand the data? And that's one of the problems I have with people that I've been mentoring over the years. I've been mentoring engineering students, biological engineering sciences students, mathematics students. They have data, but they don't know how to make it up, put sense into it, come up with a full article. So you should be able to study, understand it, not using technology, and come up with your conclusion. So also we are all aware that when I was doing my PhD, there are softwares. They were telling us then there are softwares that can do your literature review for you, cite your authors for you, and all this stuff. I wasn't interested. Right back from 2010, 2011, 2012. It was circulating, but even now, I'm still not, I don't know whether I will use ChatGPT. Because I've been hearing ChatGPT, but what I hear it does, I'm not interested. Because it's going to affect my research. Like when I went for my visa interview at the US Embassy in Nigeria, the lady asked me, tell me about your dissertation. If you wake me up in the sleep, I will tell you about my dissertation I completed since 2014. I have 100 articles plus. If you call me and pick up one of the articles, tell me the title, and tell me what is in this article, I will tell you something. But if I had used AI, I bet you I would not be able to tell you most of the things in those articles. So that's my fear for technology. Even though I'm using technology, I'm still benefiting, I will still continue to benefit, but we should continue to talk about these challenges so as to guard us, and technology inventors also should watch out. What are we going to do? That's why we're here to discuss. What are we going to do in order to tackle those challenges so that it will not impact negatively on us to the extent that we'll be caught in a fix in the future.
So a common theme between both panelists, not being prepared for the real world. I mean, we hit the AI thing, which is a relatively new challenge for us. Online learning, relatively new challenge in the grand scheme of all world events. I mean, that is relatively new. I believe that some of the first online schools were in the mid 90s, possibly. And so having that conversation that we just did about AI and not preparing students, when you're talking about building them up and getting them ready for the real world at a young age, what does that look like? What does that sound like? Because that could be the start to the fix of what we really need to do in the education world.
Yes, so I'm a fan of experimentation and experience. So I was actually in Dubai for a conference for education, and I actually took one of the students who is 19, very, very intelligent, and she was with me, and we had a question about the critical thinking, about how we prepare, the young adults for critical thinking. What she did, within the second, sitting next to me, ChatGPT, is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's exactly what she did. right next to me, because I was just asking her, like, I'm going to give you the microphone. I want you to answer. Because that's what, like, they need, like, to your point, to actually be able to speak through it, what they actually learn from the AI. So what she did, she is like, oh, I have the answer. Like, what do you mean? I didn't even think about the critical thinking, and I've been in the organization for like 15 years. So yeah, how did you get it? And then she actually just gave me her phone. It's like, ChatGPT, just answer all the questions that, you can just think about it. I said, amazing. Okay, so you will have the microphone. Do you want to just tell about them? So once she actually had the microphone and she was actually able to speak to it, she realized that she's not ready for that AI, right? The knowledge was there, but she was not ready because she needed different soft skills to be able to comprehend that AI, to be able to transform that knowledge to the audience. But when she experienced it, and I asked her to, like, watch herself, in a video, she's like, okay, I need to work on this, and then the one thing that just came out of, that ChatGPT is not like what the critical thinking is, that she was just lacking self-compassion. So I think that's what, we need to get into more listening, because when we think that they are missing in terms of the education, math, science, any other titles that they're actually, like looking forward to put in LinkedIn. I'm head of this, I'm CEO, I'm interim. They should be looking at themselves. And once she experienced it, to your point, she was like, oh, wow, I wish AI was speaking instead of me. Well, that's not going to happen. You need to speak for yourself. So I think the connection between, how technology is really being presented as the quick way of getting things done without knowing yourself. I think that's a big risk. That's a big risk for my 10 years old when he comes and he's like, I want to be a YouTuber because that's the way that I'm going to get the, money. And then the other thing that I said, I as I was going through my journey, I decided to get divorced. And that's was the time that I actually built that model that I was telling you guys, I was awaking. Well, that's the most fun part, people, they don't want to wake up, especially 19 years old, they don't. And when you wake up and then you accept, right? And then whatever you accept, you focus. When you focus, then you connect. That's the beautiful part. Until you come to connect with your mind and your heart, that we were talking about the data, everything that it actually shows the healing, then you apply. So I think dreams are inspiring, but only action, turns them into reality. And just to social media, for my son, getting divorced, and he comes to me and he says, it was talking, one of the, panelists was talking, he comes and he says, I don't need a therapist. I said, okay, I wasn't thinking one, but, I'm okay with the mental health, but I just want to, actually develop my own board game or that looks like a Minecraft. And in that Minecraft, that creative world, I think we can actually help children who have two different houses, two different PlayStation, two different life that they're going to be handling. I'm not ready for that. To answer, I was like, awesome, I think you will be a CEO one day. We're talking about 10 years old, we're talking about the 5, 6. So if we're not using technology in a much smarter way, I know it's so cliche, they're not going to be able to see the light, they're not going to be able to breathe, and then at some point, they're going to earn a lot of money. But their soul is going to get sick, and they're going to need the light that we just talked about. So why don't we just start from the beginning and educating ourselves to actually give that light to people?
Yep, could not agree more. It's interesting because what you said earlier was really we are being flooded with information and being starved for knowledge. I've got an agenda now. All right. So the last question, and then we'll take some questions from you all. So hearing that starting out earlier on, let's say kindergarten, pre-K, whatever, we're getting flooded with all this knowledge, all this information, this quick, fast now. It's here, right at your fingertips. What's the earliest age kids are getting cell phones nowadays? 6, 5. Keep them busy in the restaurant so they aren't noisy. Those types of things. Or your daughter takes your wife's phone and does whatever she wants to with it as well. So, by the way, that's my daughter right there. So, since we're looking at starting out earlier on with trying to help these students get the knowledge tied to that information, how in the online world are we going to be able to help manage that and mitigate that? Because there are people that use it as a babysitter. There are people that use it as, instead of actually teaching in the classroom, they say, watch this, watch this. How do we get away from doing that?
I think we need more orientation and reorientation regarding the use of technology in our upbringing, how parents train their children. Like when we were growing up, there was certain defined ways that parents were training us with based on our cultures, and our cultures all over the world also could be interconnected. We have similarities, even though we have few differences also. There are certain things that we were told were ethical. There are certain things that we have been told that this is the norm. But it's like with the advent of technology now, there is no norm anymore. Like she was talking about her son, who is already thinking of being a CEO at 10. You see, he wants to fly, he wants to jump, he don't want to climb the ladder. He just want to find himself on top. That's how kids of today think. So we need to build the foundation. Like the parents need to watch their kids. Like you were asking, at what age should a kid have a phone? Back there in Africa, most kids don't have phones. It's here in America that I see almost every kid have phone. So my 6-year-old daughter is already asking me, she needs a phone. They are not here. I talk to them online. She's already asking me she needs a phone. And we still have these phones that are not connected to the internet. I said, okay, I will get you this kind of phone. She said, no. She told me the specific phone she needed. I was shocked. What will you be doing with that kind of a phone? The easiest thing that will come to them is assignment. You see, when kids in Africa want to get a phone from you now, they will tell you they want it for assignment because they know their father is an educator. So that's the only thing you can say that will make me say, okay. Okay, but looking at it, at that age, you want to be using phone for assignment. Like you said, somebody used ChatGPT to give you an answer at the finger of the tip without even thinking. So where is the cognitive ability there? So it was after you should work before you get an answer. But the person got an answer before realizing that, oh, I should have climbed the ladder from the lower part. So that's the issue there. I think we need more orientation from government, Department of Education, then parents. We should watch our kids. We should be able to guide them properly and not be carried away by technology. So the way things are going now, we are getting carried away, and it might be very dangerous for us in the future.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. And I don't think any of us think, and I don't want to speak for them, but I don't think that it's the technology that's that boogeyman in the room. I think it's how we let our students use it. That's the boogeyman in the room. And so, the new fix is now, how do we control that? How do we manage that? How do we get the trainings that our staff members need, or teachers need in the classroom to make sure that their students aren't using that AI aspect in the way that they think they're gaining knowledge. They're gaining information, but not knowledge. So at this time, let's take some questions. Does anybody have any questions in the room?
Excuse me. Yes, I enjoyed what you all spoke about. And, stats are showing that students are coming out, whether it's from high school or college, and they're not prepared for the working environment or the real world in general. So what changes need to happen in the curriculum, whether it's online or in person, that could help students be more prepared for the working environment, the real world, all of that?
Yeah, I actually want to answer because I talked to someone in Dubai, and they're in connection with the Abu Dhabi, university. I think what they need to do, they need to step into that adventure as they are, studying at the university. So there must be some programs that interdisciplinary and also connecting them, with real projects where they can actually practice critical thinking, failure, problem solving, decision making, the leadership skills. It's something that really, really needs them to force them to use AI, but also be able to have a personal branding. And understand their values before they step into the company's values. Because sometimes, I see students, not having that experience, and they just go to an interview. And since I had 15 years of HR experience, they're like, oh, I want it. I want this job. Without really thinking about the culture, how they fit into that culture and values. So I think from the preparation perspective is really adding some of the design work, life and purpose design, and that's exactly my mission. Going to universities, but to be honest, at this today, and the students' experience with me, because I asked them to email to universities, they don't get back to me, and they didn't get back to them, and they're like, oh my God, the universities are not really care about us. Oh yeah. They're not getting back to me. So awareness on the universities or the education or schools, educational institutions, must be there for students to be able to go and ask for some of the adding, classes, like design, life and career design programs that I'm actually working on. And then making them go to some of the, companies and practice, be part of the project. And the last but not least, diversity. So if they are working in a diverse team and not only diverse, but really inclusiveness, and they're going to be very fast adapters. So I think the schools could add a lot more into curriculum to be able to prepare them into the real world. And that's part of my mission. I mean, I get no a lot, then yes, but I'm not giving up.
Even though we think our curriculums, they are getting outdated, we still have values in our old practices. So we should not be in a hurry to throw out what we used to do. We should try to blend them together and see how how we bring in the values that we've been teaching our students into the current modern world. So universities, colleges, and educational institutions should think about how to incorporate those old values that has brought us to where we are today. Because we are not, if we think that we allow technology to drive us entirely, it's meaning that we have failed, that we haven't achieved anything in our world. So we have actually achieved, we've developed up to this stage, and certain values has helped us to get to this stage. So what are those values that have helped us? Let's incorporate it in moving forward so that we'll guide our students, our children from the start so that they will understand how they're going to incorporate AI, technology, and other stuff into what they are doing. So we know we're in a fast-paced environment, but we should guard it. We should not run faster than our legs.
And I'll add to that as well. I'll add to what they just said as well. We overregulate education. And I think if we are teaching to tests and standardized testing, I have students in one of my Central Phoenix schools that when you ask them where would they most likely see a boat, they will say on a freeway. because they've never seen a lake. So I know the question you're asking, but I do think if we can look at deregulating and not so much sticking to what the state standards are when it comes to this is what a student must learn, and we could go with a global look at that, but each state has different rules and regulations. So, students today are transient. There are a lot of students that are transient all over the United States, all over the world. And so they're meeting these standards here, and then they don't meet these standards here. But students that can't read or write by the time they graduate, that's a travesty. And that needs to be identified so early on, and there needs to be remediation, and schools need to pay the extra money to be able to get those students caught up as best they can. We do have, and I'll just say, like my deaf school, those students are 3 years behind in language acquisition when they come in. How do we catch them up? How do we make up that 3-year gap, especially with some of the challenges that they face? And so, great question. I love that stuff because it's critical thinking, but I do think deregulation is really part of it, where we need to really look at who's setting those standards, why are they setting those standards, because a lot of state standards are never set by academic people. They're set by politicians.
That is so true. Thank you for saying that.
Anyone else?
Yes,
Okay.
and a little bit of a different questions here because I'm a scientist and I left academia, and as you heard yesterday, toxic environment. But another little thing that I didn't mention was that I don't like writing. So going back, when I started in science in the 80s, that was before the internet, okay? So by writing an article in those days, you actually wrote by hand on a paper. And then you gave that to the professor and the secretary, typewrite, basically. So the writing wasn't really crucial, being a scientist. It was being a scientist that was crucial. And the rest was just learning to introduction and, the results. The articles were very, very thin. And the theses in those days also very thin books. And then the first microcomputer came, the Mac, the box with the discs. And they said, Tina, you should write now. And I said, God, I don't like writing. I'm a scientist. I don't. Okay, so I had to start in the disc. And then, my English capability wasn't very good because I trained English in the wrong way and grammar. So the professor said, you're not a good scientist, you can't write. So that's odd. I was a good scientist before, not a good scientist now. Interesting. And then, but he was very open-minded because he learned I had a dyslexia. So I said, oh, you can't help that. So he was very open-minded. And then I came to Germany, and the computer was bigger. And the bigger computer, the bigger capacity of the computer, the bigger the thesis and articles. The more text in the articles. And this has developed. So when I came back as an assistant professor, I was sitting, 80% of my time writing articles, writing reviews, fundraising, and then, European Union, you have to write it in a specific way. So suddenly, no, you have to buy that service. So I thought, I'm not a scientist any longer. What I'm doing, I'm just sitting writing. And every article starts in the same way. I don't need to do this. I want to delegate it, completely. I want to solve the problems, see the numbers, see, this abstract idea, put things together. But I don't want to write it down on the paper any longer. I lose my creativity. What I'm saying here is, are we selecting a new form of scientist? You need to like to write. You need to be able. Are we selecting a different kind of scientist? This is something I've been thinking about a lot because I'm coaching professors. And I'm starting thinking, are we selecting a different kind of scientist nowadays? And where are the people going that actually are super creative? They can't spell. They don't care about the writing, but have brilliant ideas, crazy ideas. Because the professors, I remember that were professors in the 70s, 80s. They were crazy.
We had the same professors.
Crazy ideas, and whoa, completely weird. And I don't find them really any longer in the same way. I'm just open up because this is something that has bothered me for a while. Where are these crazy people going with these crazy? Do they go to industry? Because they don't have to write there. So what I'm doing in my company, I don't write. I said, could anyone, I buy that service. It doesn't mean it's not me, because I guide what I want to have in there, but I don't care about the dots and the commas. Someone else can do that. I don't want to bother about it because it's boring for me. And then I lose my creativity and happiness. Just open up for that, because it's something that's been going on in my mind for quite a while.
Well, and you're not wrong. And so I'll jump in real quick, and then I'll let you two finish up. But you're not wrong. And I think the biggest thing about education that we have to remember is we're actually training students for jobs that don't yet exist. And so you're absolutely right that it is a new type of scientist. It is a new type of mathematician. It is a new type of even a history teacher. You know, it's a new way of getting that knowledge to those students. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. We're in a loop right now where we're actually preparing these students for jobs that don't yet exist, and we're giving them tools that can either be a help or a hindrance. And it's all in how we allow that to happen within our P20 educational system.
Well, for scientists,
She said very quick.
for scientists writing articles, like, you know, that's why we work in a team. Like, we have different skills. So that's why we have research clusters. Like, some scientists are good in gathering data, analyzing data. Some of them are good in putting sense into the data. That's why you see some journal articles, you have more than 2, 3, 4 names. So we are not equally skilled in particular way of doing things. So like the general thing we usually say in my country, when we were in the university, we usually say that engineering students are not good in writing. They are not good in English. When they make grammatical errors, we pardon them. But if you are in the social sciences, we will not pardon you when you make grammatical errors. So that's why we have cross-disciplinary publishing. When you have people in social sciences come into engineering to work with you, you have a lot of data, you have a lot of imagination, creative imaginations, figures, and so those in social sciences who we think are good in English and grammar, they put sense into it, they cross your dots, they dot your I's, the commas, and the full stops where relevant. So to make a complete article. Yeah.
I'm just going to be very, very quick. It's so hard for me. So I'm even stressed right now. So I think, yes, we are actually doing different way of learning, you know, and I think the most important that if they are really know themselves, if they are honest to themselves, like every student and, you know, like or every one of us into an education piece, then we will be able to understand which path we want to go. And like I have worked with people from like a data science or physics, and, you know, we are looking at each other. We are on a different world, you know. I'm left, they're right, or wherever we are. But, you know, what I recommend for them to actually just work together. So if they're, you know, like a specialized in physics, you know, they work with people from psychology. So it really helps that inclusiveness and creating more ideas and also break the silo. Thank you very much.
Give them a round of applause. Thank you so much.